Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Is there anything wrong in loving the self if we simultaneously believe in and pursue Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah? Can one love oneself equally the world? See, loving the self is spontaneous. It's not that we love ourselves, any effort is required. It is spontaneous. Love for the self is spontaneous because the self is of the nature of ananda, and we naturally love ananda or happiness. Therefore, love for the self is natural, is spontaneous, effortless. And love for others is based on utility. I love others if they are useful to me. And the extent to which they are useful, to that extent, I love them because through them I love myself. I love someone because of their utility to me. And therefore, through love through them also ultimately, it is love for my own self that is reflected there. It's not selfish, that is how things are. Because we love ananda or happiness, we love freedom, and freedom and happiness is nature of ourselves. Therefore, the love of the self is natural. And whoever aids me, helps me in the love with myself also becomes an object of love by the way. So, love for others is called gaunam or the secondary, love of the self is primary. It's not that we are doing this happens. The question is, if I love myself but love others, I love myself is not a question. That is there, and if you love others also, it is only because that love for others in some way helps you love for yourself. So any other love is for the sake of the love for the self. And there's nothing selfish about it, that's how things are because self is the nature of ananda, and that's how things are. So we need not feel guilty because I love myself, that I'm selfish. Except that more we understand the nature of self, more mature our love will become. And so ultimately, if you understand the self is the self of all, our love will become most mature. So that is why knowledge comes into play, knowing the true nature of the self. So the extent to which so that means it is really expanding myself. It's a stretch the ego. That's what Lord Krishna teaches in the Bhagavad Gita. When Lord Krishna says that may you perform your actions in the spirit of offering, spirit of contribution, that we include others. The idea is that you include others in what you do, and what you do should not be hopefully confined to your own self, which is a little self. If that is what we do, we will always remain little. Lord Krishna include others, it means you expand yourself or your ego, because that is in keeping with the true nature of the self. And so more we try to do that, closer we will be to what we truly are. And so, is there anything wrong in loving the self? There is no wrong, right? That's a spontaneous thing. You don't decide to love yourself. You find yourself doing that, so there's nothing wrong or right about it. That's what is natural. We simultaneously believe and pursue the love for others. Yes, expand yourself, include others. Because the self in its true nature includes everything. Atma is the word Atma is Atma Atma, the one that pervades everything, that includes everything is called Atma in the true self sense. Because of identification with one personality, we have confined our understanding or our knowledge of Atma to one Upadhi. That's the result of ignorance. And therefore, Vedanta teaches us to recognize the nature of ignorance, that what is not Atma is taken as Atma, and that's why the idea of Atma becomes confined to just one body-mind complex. And therefore, the Viveka or discriminate separation of Atma from Anatma, meaning that progressively becoming free from identification with what is not Atma, and that's how we find ourselves more and more inclusive, expanding the idea of the self. And Karma Yoga is an excellent way. So, performing the actions as a contributor, meaning including the needs of others also. Not just addressing my personal needs, but as best as I can, also include the needs of others. That the Lord Krishna teaches us to expand the idea of the self. That's the idea of the Karma Yoga, which will result into knowledge. So therefore, Karma Yoga is the first step, and Jnana or knowledge is second step. In Karma Yoga, we have the attitude of including others. In Jnana, we know that we include others. We start with attitude, and that culminates into knowledge. Attitude means bhakti. That's the first step. Knowledge is the result of that. Any question on that?
Harim Swamiji, um, regarding this love, so the love that we have for, say, my husband, my kids, where does raga come here? Is this love, or is this raga?
So, what's the difference between love and attachment? Like that's the
Yes,
question.
yes.
Attachment also is love. Okay, you can sit down. Attachment also is love only, except that love is confined to a certain entity, which love is opposed to love for something else. It is called raga when it is accompanied with dvesha, meaning that when my love for an individual is accompanied with my hatred for something else, then that love is called attachment. Because then in attachment, there is dependence. In love, there is freedom. Love, attachment also is love. But then when love brings about a dependence, then it becomes attachment. In attachment, I expect my object of love to fulfill my needs. In attachment, there is a dependence. And therefore, in attachment, there can be disappointment. The object of attachment does not fulfill my needs. It's a love with expectation. And that is how it normally is. So, if you to recognize the nature of the relationship that we have with different people, different entities. And I'm sure that all those relationships will involve some attachment, meaning some expectations. And so we should analyze the relationship and see what we can do in terms of letting go the expectation from the others. That I make an attempt to like a person or like an entity without demanding what they should do for me. Here my love is conditional. I love you as long as you fulfill my condition. You don't fulfill that condition, my love also disappears. That love we would call attachment, where there is a dependence, where there is an expectation, and that is usually what we have. Now, it is more we understand the person, it is likely, like husband, for example, spouse. It is likely that what began as an attachment can slowly develop into love when we recognize the person and what the person does for us, and etc., etc. And so, this is what we should attempt to do in every relationship as much as we can. That the attachment should slowly be transformed into what can I or I can do for others. In attachment, what other can do for me. In love, what I can do for others. As our Swami would say that when anybody comes before me, my first thought is, what can I do to help? How can I be useful to that person? Usually your thought is, how can I use that person? Slowly, if you can transform it, how can I be useful to that person? And understand that practicing any value always requires wisdom and boundaries. It should be done with viveka or discrimination. What can I do for others also requires viveka, boundaries. Because usually doing something for other will involve letting go of something of mine. Usually we cannot do something for others unless I sacrifice something of mine. And that causes pain. Meaning that doing something for others in a way causes pain because it involves sacrificing something that is mine. That is why it's talked of boundaries. That doing something for others also involves letting go of something that I like, which involves pain, and therefore the extent to which I can live with that pain, to that extent, I can reach out. Otherwise, I feel exploited and various things happen. So, always keep on evaluating the relationship and understand our own mind in what we can, how we can slowly change ourselves.
Swamiji, in this regard, how the moha comes into picture? Moha, attachment, again, how would we place that?
Moha generally is translated as illusion, or but here the way and the meaning in which you use the word moha is attachment only, and because again that person gives me happiness or comfort or security in some way, and therefore I like that person. I'm attached to that person. So there also there is an expectation of the other person. If that person does not fulfill my expectation, then slowly that turns into dislike. So none of our relationship is purely love. I must admit that. In all our relationships, some expectations are there. We should therefore analyze every relationship and see what we can do to let go of the binding element. Expectation is a binding element. Love is freedom. But rarely there is that love which is totally accompanied with freedom. And so in relationship, let us observe and what the expectations are, what can we drop, how I can make my love free to the extent that I can.
In certain Vedantic discourses of late, I have heard that we should have detached attachment. Could you kindly elucidate this point? Detached attachment.
Good, I'll have to think about it. Attachment. So whoever used that expression, did they explain to you what it means?
What I have understood
Yeah.
with my little knowledge, I have understood that we should have attachment without clinging too much. Maybe the thing that you have explained just now, maybe it indicates that.
Right. Then attachment is not a right word for that. Attachment involves some clinging, attachment involves expectation. But anyway, so in every relationship, attachment is there, expectations are there. As I said, try to see if you can let go of the attachment to whatever extent. And that requires discovering that freedom from one's own self. You see, we are basically needy beings. And our needs mostly are emotional needs. We need to be approved by others, need to be accepted by others, approved by others. Because I do not approve of myself. I do not quite accept myself. Therefore, I need others to accept me, others to approve of me. And so ultimately, we have to look at our own selves, and that even expectation of others comes from some need of my own. And more we try to understand that, more we try to deal with that, those other expectations will reduce. So it is not that we deliberately expect. Our need automatically creates that, because when I need, I require help. So all attachments, etc., all expectations are an expression of my inner need, and mostly an emotional need. And so we try to understand that, and the way to deal with that is try to become a giver within limits, within boundaries, and progressively become a giver. More satisfaction discover in giving love, less will be the need for being loved. That's the whole idea of karma yoga. Yes, sir.
The line of difference between nirapeksha prem and devotion, and whether the atmanust kama, the love.
Just a second. Kindly speak in the microphone.
What is the line of difference between nirapeksha prem and devotion, and whether this today's shloka atmanast kamaya, when you love yourself, love self to all, so love for all. So how it can extend to devotion for the God, and many saints are the very true example of this Whether it can be a true example of this shloka.
You see, saints,
No. What is the line of difference between Nirapeksha Prem and devotion? Because even in Narada Stuti, Prem is defined in different ways. Love is defined in different ways. And how it can be connected with today's shloka, Atmanastu Kamaya. When we say that love yourself means myself is a self of all, means it is a love for all. So Nirapeksha Prem, devotion and this shloka, whether there is any correlation is there.
see, love for the self means whatever my understanding of self is. You may sit down. My understanding of self keeps on changing in according to situation. Panchadashi has discussed it very well, and he defines self in three ways. And the author of Panchadashi, Vidyaranya Swami, one is Gauna, other is Mithya, and third is true self. So, Gauna, that I love my child, I love my country. I know very well that my child is me, not me, or my country is not me, and still I love them as I love myself, and people have sacrificed themselves for country, sacrificed for their loved ones. That means that was the self at that time. That is called Gauna or secondary. Second is love for my body, this upadhi, which I do not know, so this, because of identification, this is called mithya self. Because what is not self is taken to be the self. And finally is the love for the true self. And we have to slowly graduate by recognizing this and recognizing my attachment first to something outside of myself, then attachment to my upadhi, body-mind complex, and keep creating distance which is there. The attachment or identification has erased the distance which is there. So identification with my child, for example, there is a distance, but then the attachment erases the distance. Similarly also, the identification of my body erases distance which is there. So recognizing the distance, and more we recognize the distance. That doesn't mean that I have become indifferent, that I do not like, just recognize. In that case, my love for self, the true self, will become more and more mature. There is love for the self, but definition of self changes in different situations. Sometimes the country is loved, sometimes my property is loved, sometimes my job is loved, etc. That's secondary. And some will sacrifice for that, for what is self under those conditions. And body is the love for the mithya self. And third is Satchidananda self. So recognize this first. Before doing anything, you have to recognize. And look at that sympathetically, because this is something that is already there, not that I have created it. And recognize that love, that this is Guna, this is Mithya, and this is the true self. And more we take into account, more real, more closer we'll be to the reality. There's nothing to be done about it, something to be taken note of. So, love for the self of all, love for Bhagavan, etc., is what we are talking about here is the ultimately love for Bhagavan, also is love for the self. depends upon how I look at Bhagavan. And I look at him as my father, as my mother, as my benefactor, then Bhagavan becomes the object of love, isn't it? Because he is my benefactor. So ultimately it is love for the self. So sometimes people get upset with Bhagavan also. Because I've been worshipping you in the last 25, what have you done for me? So one of our, devotees, his daughter died, young, and he was so upset, he took Bhagavan and threw away. I've been worshipping you for all these years, what have you done for me? So that worship was accompanied with expectation. When expectation is not fulfilled, then along with expected, love also goes away. So we have to just be aware of a relationship with God and with others also, and what is the element of expectation there, and see what we can do about it. With Ishvara also. Can I just love Ishvara for what? Without expectation, that he should do this for me. That is called the Karma Yoga, that you perform an action without expecting the reward. Meaning without expecting personal reward. When you perform an action, the outcome will come. But when you perform an action, what we want always is a personal reward. Understand? Self-gratification. Generally, through performing any action, what is in it for me? My mind asks this question. What is in it for me? What am I going to get out of that? So that is called the self-gratification. Look at this aspect and see how much, to what extent we can deal with it. Without self-gratification, what we can do, then the love will become, more and more genuine. Any questions on this topic? Can we love ourselves and equally the world? Sure, you can. But it has to, we have to make it happen. You cannot will the love, understand? Love, our Swami used to say, it's not a verb, it's a word and not a verb. What Swami meant was, it's not something that you do deliberately. Oh, see, if it is a verb, kriya pada, then kriya is an action that you do deliberately. You cannot deliberately love somebody. If you could do that, that would be wonderful. Come on, love, yeah, this is your sister, love her. So that love has to happen. Or we should do something with ourselves so that love happens. You cannot will the love. You fall in love. Then it happens. What it meant is, it happens. There's no will as far as love is concerned. Otherwise, why should I not? I mean, we would love everybody. Because that is where the satisfaction, but we cannot. There is so much has to be done. So many times you meet with the person, bring gifts and take out. So much work has to be done for the love to take place. Go to internet and that says, okay, there's some kind of a compatibility is there, but you have to work with that. And then people think that marriage is beginning, not end. Good that it's a love marriage, and therefore that you love each other, but it is only beginning. Because closer you come to each other, more you discover about each other, and you wonder, Oh, I did not realize this fellow is snoring. Things like that. And therefore, that is just the beginning where you have to work in order to cultivate love or acceptance. It does not automatically happen. You have to make it work. So, if you had love marriage, you have some positive, little, like in the race, this fellow is already, so he has some benefit there. But otherwise, it will work in order to reach his destiny. So, also, in love marriage, you have some benefits, some what do you call it? Huh? Head start, yeah. Some head start is there. But other than that, you have to run and make effort. I'm sure you all know that anyway, but this is what you tell our youngsters. That where you are, I mean, there's not much you can do now, but to our children, we can tell them, educate them. Any question on this topic? I respect God. I admire God, but I find it difficult to love Him. How to invoke true love for Him in my heart? So that's why our gods are presented as very beautiful entities, attractive entities like Lord Krishna, Rama, etc. And in our temples also, they are well decorated to make it lovable. So therefore, love for God also, we have to work on that. But it should have something. Now we have an array of all the different deities. Rama is there, Krishna is there, this is there, that is there. If one of them at least creates in you some little attraction, then start with that. That is the basis, and you work then on that. And the way to discover love, it says, Mahatma Jnana Purvastu Sudrdo Sarvatodikaha Sneha, Bhakti Prokta. So, what is Bhakti? Sneha, or let us say liking, attachment. Mahatma Jnana Purvastu. More we come to know of the greatness of, say, God. So that is why to discover love, we would recommend that you listen to some Purana Katha. And listen to someone who is effective and good. So like Srimad Bhagavatam will describe the glories of Lord Krishna, and someone you hear from some Rasika. Rasika means, someone who enjoys that. Not just relating things. Anything that you listen to from a Rasika means one who enjoys it. Then you start enjoying it also, including Vedanta, Sanskrit, anything. That if you listen to the person who loves it, will be able to create love in you. Even Sanskrit also. If you learn Sanskrit from someone who can create love for that. See, Atmastu Kamaya comes into picture everywhere. This geography, history, etc. I never bothered about it when I was in school. Then when I was in New York and I had a world map in my office, I realized how geography affects history and how history affects geography. And how both of them affect me, and I recognize how they affect me. To make anything interesting, we have to make the students recognize how it is related to you. Sanskrit also in anything for any subject matter. history, geography, or anything, how it relates to the self. How I am what I am is a product of history. How geography has contributed to what I am, how history has contributed to what I am, how Sanskrit can contribute to me. That if you can show the usefulness of any topic to the person, then the person will take interest. Otherwise, it's an academic stuff. We study them for the sake of examination, then forget. But if there is a teacher who can create a new love for the topic, love for geography, how geography, how you are what you are because of geography. If he can show you that, because I am the object of my love and recognize that geography has contributed this to me, then geography becomes an object of my love also. So this is how the teaching should take place. Many teachers just come and teach, but without that there is no connection between the self and the subject matter. Sometimes Sanskrit, you memorize it and you just pass the exam, history, geography. But a good teacher will be able to connect you with that. Then you will want to study that. So also Vedanta, of course we are here because Vedanta talks about the self, and particularly today Atmanastu Kamaya, we recognize that everything is for the sake of self. So now coming back to this question, how to love God, as I said, listen to the glories of the Lord. Mahatma Jnana Purvastu Sudrudaha Sarvatodhikaha. Listen to Mahatma, listen to glories of. Suppose you discover love for Lord Krishna. Listen to Bhagavatam. From an authentic person who can create in you that rasa, who himself enjoys it, creates rasa in you for Bhagavatam, Lord Krishna, you will discover love for Lord Krishna as an example. Ramayana, someone who is rasi, there are many. They are not just kathakara, there are some who are really good. And listening to them fills up your heart with love or devotion. So we had one Dongre Maharaj in Gujarat. And people who listened to him, in them, the love for Lord Krishna, because he loved Krishna. And so what he said was only out of love for Lord Krishna. He can create then his listeners. So coming back to your question, if you decide what is my Ishta Devata, of all the range of devatas that we have, there is someone who attracts a little bit. Make that as a basis and then discover the glories of that devata. If it is Krishna, Rama, that very appearance, that is why so in ornamentation is there in our temples and places. At home also they do that. Sarvagnya is no, we don't love Sarvagnya. We love Bhagavan because he is wonderful, beautiful. Yeah. So it depends. Some different people are fascinated by different things. So glory in terms of his goodness, in terms of how he, helped his devotees, how he, so paritranaya sadhuna vinashaya duskritam. That is how it would, and if you can connect that with yourself, a big chunk of Indians fall in love with Lord Rama, after this, it's quite something. Because that thing was always project like that all the time. And an enlargement and magnifying his features and his eyes and oh, how beautiful the form is, and look at the eyes. Then I started looking at it, myself. But anyway, so this is how they were able to do. They were able to create an admiration first, and then attachment. So all of a sudden, the pilgrimage to Ayodhya was lakhs of people. Hmm.
Related question: is bhakti towards a deity a pre or a mandatory towards discovering your true self? Is it a path that you have to take, or can you skip that path? Because I sometimes struggle with it.
Well, bhakti means commitment. So if you are committed to knowledge, for example, then also we call bhakti for knowledge. So, Shraddhavan labhate jnanam tatparaha sanyatendriya. One who has Shraddha gains the knowledge, Shraddha creates the tatparata, devotion to that. And that also, all your energies are focused upon that. And so, bhakti is, you have bhakti. It's a matter of discovering. I mean, you may not have devotion for a given deity, given form, given etc. But everybody has love. And we have to look at ourselves and see what it is that I find myself interested in. We love for truth. If we love for some values, love for the country, love for X, Y, Z. So we have to look at ourselves and discover that love. And equate that to Devata if you want to. Because Rama also would stand for Dharma, would stand for truth. I enjoy attending such retreats. I do get knowledge. I feel my near and dear ones also should get the same. I try for it also and I persuade them for that. Is it just my good wish or moha that are like Arjuna's? No. Generally, when we enjoy something, we want to share that. While taking morning walk, all of a sudden you see the sun rise. Hey, look, with a friend. We want him to see. We want to share the joy. So when you enjoy the retreats, you want to share the joy with the loved ones, and it is something natural. And so the joy that you discovered, you wish that they also should have because you love them. And so that is good. That's a good attitude. And you try to persuade them. Whether that works or not is, it may not work. This person, his wife was attending classes. Every day he would go and drop her. And again go back to receive her. Pick her up. But he never went into the class, for a long time. So it's amazing. It never occurred to him that I should go to the class someday. No. So it is possible that your relatives or loved ones may not have that kind of, feeling for this. Ultimately, you need to have feeling. And if it is there, it depends on how much sway you have over that person. Come on! Sometimes they do that and then it may work also. But if you don't have the sway, then you want to go, no, I won't come. At least a good person, it drops you to the classes, But for years together, well, I never went in. So you have to pray that my loved one also would discover a value for this. Any other question? Yes, sir. Very much.
Hari Om Swamiji. This is regarding today's process of, you said, Atma, Shrotamyam, Mantavyam, Nididhasavam. But they say that your Autopnishi says your all organs are outward, they are open outwards. Okay, the very first thing you should go inward. Then they say the Atma is Agrahya, Asparsha, Achintya, all that. So, what exactly is the process? Or you need first to do Karma Upasana, Chitta Shuddhi, then only you can contemplate on that. So, what exactly, how to listen, which can be listened? How to, that is my question.
So Chitta Shuddhi is taken for granted when you come to listen to Vedanta, or when even Maitreya is listening to Yajnavalkya. Chitta Shuddhi is expected, otherwise you won't be interested basically. To be interested in Vedanta is not easy. It is a very dry subject, or dry topic. There are some who make it more interesting, also, but otherwise it's not a very there's no big rasasvada, in Vedanta, unless you discover that subtle joy. So Antaraga Shuddhi is apekshita, is expected. And more you have, more you can relate to what Vedanta teaches. So Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam is all part of pursuing Vedanta only. Let's we'll discuss it tomorrow. Done with all questions? Okay, then we'll conclude with one bhajan. It is Mangavarta, right? Okay, that's all right. Matangavadana Ananda Sadana Matangavadana Ananda Sadana Mahadeva Shiva Shambho Nandana Mahadeva Shiva Shambho Nandana Matangavadana Ananda Sadana Maya Vilola Mushakavahana Maya Vilola Mushakavahana Mata Maheshwari Bhavani Nandana Mata Maheshwari Bhavani Nandana Mahaganapate Mangala Charana Mahaganapate Mangala Charana Matangavadana Ananda Sadana Mahadeva Shiva Shambho Nandana. Everybody please join. Mahadeva Shiva Shambho Nandana Matangavadana Ananda Sadana Maya Vilola Mushakavahana Maya Vilola Mushakavahana Mata Maheshwari Bhavani Nandana Mata Maheshwari Bhavani Nandana Mahaganapate Mangala Charana Mahaganapate Mangala Charana Matangavadana Ananda Sadana Matangavadana Ananda Sadana Mahadeva Shiva Shambho Nandana Mahadeva Shiva Shambho Nandana Matangavadana Ananda Sadana Maya Vilola Mushakavahana Maya Vilola Mushakavahana Mata Maheshwari Bhavani Nandana Mata Maheshwari Bhavani Nandana Mahaganapate Mangala Charana Mahaganapate Mangala Charana Matangavadana Ananda Sadana मातङ्गवदना आनन्दसदना आनन्दसदना आनन्दसदना. ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतङ्गमय ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ